Well, good morning, everybody, and good morning, Peter. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Matt, and you?
Very well indeed.
And good morning to everybody out there and in attendance today. It's always great to have you along. It's been a while now, actually. I think we've had a bit of a break for
Yep,
the Easter period, so a bit of a hiatus, but got a good day to show you today. So.
Certainly some good trading during the Easter break, wasn't there?
Yeah, if you recall, the last time we met, it was a bit gloom and doom. I picked a day where nothing seemed to go right.
Yes.
For a good reason. Today is the exact opposite to that. This is a day that you dream about. This is the sort of day you want to be involved, and this is the day to capitalise on. So it is important for everybody out there, particularly the new chums, to become very aware and au fait with the software and the priorities, the selection priorities, so you can take advantage of the days just like this.
Yeah, very good. So just my job is to curate the questions, as I've said. So find that question box and do whatever you like, Pete. So just ask the questions in the question box, and I'll deal with those as they come through, and I can interrupt Peter and make hand signals now, so I don't have to just dive in on top of his sentences. Also, what have we got on this afternoon, Pete?
Well, we've got, of course, we've got the workshop involving, I think, Hamilton and Sydney.
A couple of Sydney groups, actually, isn't
there?
there?
Yeah, there's a couple of little tasks and exercises that I've got organised for everybody in attendance to do.
Yeah.
Which hopefully will be quite interesting and thought-provoking.
Yeah, so we're going to kick off around about what time was that?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock Queensland time. So we're kicking off 1 o'clock Queensland time, and that is an online workshop going to go for about an hour, hour and a half?
Hour to hour and a half, I think.
And so so the people in the support group in Hamilton and the couple in Sydney. Now, this is something we're offering as an inclusion. We want to make sure, our goal here is to make sure you're successful, you're profitable, and so we're not charging for today's webinars for the people in Hamilton and in Sydney. If you want to be involved in a future webinar, please let Linda know, because we'll do these, have webinar software, we'll do webinars, really.
Yes.
We don't even have to travel. I used to say, have software, we'll travel, but have software, we'll invest the time in your success.
Exactly right.
So do let Linda know that you're willing to and enthusiastic about being part of the future success stories or continuing success stories with IQ Pro. So, Pete, I will leave it to you.
All right, thanks, Matt. We'll get underway. We've got quite a few selections on this day. See how we go. We might not get through the full day, depending on people's responses and perhaps queries or comments and so on. But we'll work through the races, and we'll start with the very first race of the day, which is MRO1 in percentage return. And this is a trading race with 3 selections in the group up against the weak favourite, number 2. Now you can see where the favourite's sitting, 4th in the field. So that means it's obviously very weak, not only in terms of percentage, but because of the position in the field order. And remember, the field order in percentage return is based on the late market money support for runners over the last 5 intervals. So over the last 5 intervals, in other words, the business end of things, this favourite has weakened in the betting, and it's sitting 4th in the field. So we've got 3 runners that are very money competitive with it sitting above it. Now, this is a good, I'm pleased to see this come up, because I know perhaps some of you out there might be saying, well, hang on a minute, why hasn't, he bangs on about working to separators and defining groups with separators. Why hasn't Why hasn't it been necessary to add number 2 to the group down to the separator? And the answer is that the favourite is the weak favourite, right? And you've got this particular group, 1, 11 and 10, that is the money competitive group with the weak favourite. Now, this separator of 2.11 defines the dominant runners in the field as being 1, 11, 10 and 2, the weak favourite. Now, the weak favourite, we're going to trade against, and so this separator is the de facto separator for our trading group. So,
is everybody okay with that? So I know that we know most of the time we're trading with the favourite. Remember, I guess this is where percentage return started, isn't it, Pete? Looking for a weak favourite. So
absolutely.
For those of you who have been with us for a long time, this is where percent return actually began as a way to find, because often we'll find with strong favourites they'll turn up to be trifecta races, and that's really what our business was all about way back when. And then we tried to find ways of making money when races for a trifecta didn't qualify. And so that's what we actually created here with the percent return, and obviously didn't just create it but tested 1,000 different theories against it. So I know that we spend a lot of time talking about trading with favourites, but this is a plum opportunity, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, remember that with weak favourites, with the new system that we employ, with the groups requiring to, they've got to hold at least 47.5% of the money. If the potential trading group does not hold that percentage, then the favourite's got to be added. If the favourite has got numbers or a negative value in the U diff column, then that qualifies the favourite to be added to our final group. But when we're dealing with weak favourites, we can either trade against them or with them. It just depends on what's presenting. And this scenario is the ideal scenario because quite obviously 1, 11 and 10 are attracting, those 3 runners are attracting more money individually than the favourite. So very competitive, money competitive. And just to sort of highlight the validity of using the separator at the favourite as our defining separator, really speaking, it's the 4 runners that are the dominant runners in the betting. Right? So that's what that separator demonstrates, one of which is the weak favourite. So we're going to stack 3 runners up against the weak favourite, hence 2.11 becomes our defining separator for that group. All right, nice healthy return. So there's a positive start to the day's activities, which we're always aiming to achieve.
Very good. And good morning to those who have just arrived. And we're talking about Saturday the 28th of March. Peter's here in the global headquarters of, it's getting more grand every time I say it, isn't it?
It's wonderful.
It's now the global headquarters of IQ Pro Incorporated. And so that's why we can have this, I guess you could say, a little bit more fluent conversation now. So welcome to those of you who just arrived. We're going through Saturday the 28th. And actually what I wanted to ask, I know I'm just diving in here, but are there any questions about that race? This is the first race of the day, MR1 Caulfield, Saturday 28th of March. We've got 3 horses stacked up against the favourite, 47.5% coverage. Are there any questions there, or is everybody sitting at home, for those of you playing along at home, nodding along, going, yep, I get it, I traded it, or if I didn't trade it, I would have traded it if I was looking at the program on this particular day. So, so if you're not, or if you've got a question, you want to say, yep, I traded it, or no, I didn't, or yes, I understand it, just go ahead and let us know.
Yes, it's important for the reason why I've explained it in detail is that very often there's a sort of a confusion about working to separators, and we are in effect working to this separator as our defining separator in this instance.
Great. A couple of people chiming in saying, yep, I get it, I understand, fantastic. Good.
Yeah. just one more clarifying thing, if you're still struggling a little bit with it, just think of reversing the group of 4 runners. If you have the favourite at the top or the favourite sitting midway down the group, then there'd be no, it would be no different, really.
Yep, excellent.
Right? Okay, let's move on to the very next race. And once again, we go to percentage return, and here's another example of where we're going to trade against the weak favourite. This time the favourite sort of sitting second in the field. We've got a 1 runner that's obviously attracting more late money, but you can see quite clearly if you do the subtraction that the group is holding more than 47.5% of the money. The favourite's got a positive value in the UDIF column. There are no numbers in the WUP column. If I go back 1 to the 2-minute mark, you can see the favourite is still number 2. So there's no change of favourite occurring, because if there was a change of favourite occurring going from 2 to 1 minute, then that would identify the new favourite as being a strong favourite. Let's not forget that. Change of favourite at 1 minute means the favourite must be included, the new favourite must be included in any trading group and treated like it is a strong favourite.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I remember that from our workshops that we've done together, Pete. That's an indicator of a strong or strengthening favourite that requires to be added in. So that's something that I wouldn't say I've forgotten, but it certainly hasn't been spoken about for a while. So that's great distinction.
Well, we're working on the premise that if you have a change of favourite occurring, the new favourite is generally created because it's attracted quite a large amount of money at that point in time.
Yep.
To move it into prominence. So on the strength of that sort of premise, we're going to treat any new favourites at 1 minute as strong favourites. If a favourite changes at an interval prior to the 1 minute mark and establishes itself, well, then it's not not necessarily deemed as a strong favourite.
Yeah, really good. Okay, so that's a trade there. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, as we spoke about last time, and as the theme is continuing to roll forward with these webinars, the correct selection is the goal here, not necessarily making large globs of cash, because that does shake out at the end of the day. Yes, this is a successful day, but much like showing the last webinar we did with the losses, it's not about always making money every trade. It's actually about making the right selections, because we know through 17 years of history that success will follow the right trades.
That's right. It's about being consistent.
Yes.
And if you've got a very good game plan in sport, and you're just not having any success on one particular occasion, you don't throw the game plan out the window.
No.
You stick to your game plan. That's why the All Blacks are so successical.
Don't bring up the All Blacks.
I've got to, unfortunately, because they're an ideal group to analogise.
I think we talk about beach volleyball. I think Australia still wins that, don't
they? Yeah, but the All Blacks stick to their game. I mean, it doesn't matter whether they're 20 points down with 2 minutes to go. They just maintain their cool and keep working to their plan.
When were they 20 points down?
Yeah, very rarely.
Very freaking rarely.
But that's when they're most dangerous.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Okay. So
hang on, mate. We're both wearing black shirts today. We need to get some canary yellow shirts, I think, just to make sure everybody understands we actually go for Australia.
Well, I got a New Zealand shirt at home. It's the only place I wear it is in Auckland.
Yeah, right.
All right. Okay. So we move on now to the next trading opportunity, which is this one here. And of course, it's our old friend, the banker trifecta. Now, somebody asked me what's the reason for applying the banker trifecta or the megafecta strategy in races, because as he pointed out, a lot of them aren't successful because favourites don't sort of have a great success rate in as far as racing records are concerned. And the reason is that If they are successful, they generally, generate quite a reasonable income in most instances, especially mega factors. So as I said to him, don't be prepared to trade banker and mega factor, but be selective in your trading. Make sure that you're very comfortable that the favourite is well represented in the market. Otherwise, it's your choice to opt out if you wish.
Yep.
All right. So there's a banker trifecta. It's pretty clear. Obviously, we've got to cover, remember, the second, at least 80% of the money. So before we work to a money gap, so that would bring second and third down to runner 3. Certainly optimal coverage, I think we'd all agree, and that's a trading opportunity with 30 combinations. Okay, moving on to, there. Now here's a pretty basic, this is a classic 50, 70, 90 to red money gaps. As you can see here, clear cut, look at the strong money for the favourite. There's secondary money there, right down to there. And so we're just going 50, 70, 90 to red money gaps. Let's go to percentage return. The location of the separators pretty much mirror the location of the corresponding money gaps in trifecta, and I think we can see quite clearly here, this is a good example of where the selections that have been made, the basic selections, have best accommodated the prevailing money profile in this race. And this is not only a trading race in trifecta, but it's also a trading race in percentage return. 53.44% of the money, very strong favourite, doubly strong actually, big percentage, sitting at the top with its own red separator. Look at the strength of money, cumulative money here, look at the strength of the money here, 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 going all the way back, at least back to the 3-minute mark, oh well, even further, 4 minutes. These are the sorts of trading opportunities that we want to get involved with in percentage return.
Is everybody okay with that?
Oh, and the separator, of course, has to be 1.7 or bigger if you're defining a group of 2 runners, one of them being the favourite.
Perfect. Hey, actually, we've got a Chris from question. We've got a question from Chris. Can you just jump back to TR1? And Chris asked, why didn't we stop at 78% for a second place?
Because with banker trifecta and mega factor, we're standing the favourite out on its own. So I guess that elevates the risk factor. Even though the money supports doing that, it's elevating the risk factor rather because we're not covering a group of runners, but we're singling one runner out. We're putting our faith in one runner to come first. So to offset that added risk, we want to make sure that we've given ourselves optimal coverage for second and third, so that in the event that the favourite wins, we pick up second and third as well. We don't blow it with missing out on second or third. And so to help us to achieve that optimal coverage, we look to cover not 70% of the money, but 80% to a red money gap.
Awesome. And so, and remember that there are no
allowances.
Thank you. That was the word I was searching for. You can see me waving, but yeah.
No, and the reason simply is, we're trading with one runner to come first. Why do we want to sort of undercut our selections? If you're going to make allowances, you're negating that obligation to give yourself optimal coverage. So we just stick to the basic 50, 70, or not, well, 80% to a red money gap second at least, and 90% to a red money gap for third at least.
Is that clear? Is that okay, Chris? All right, well Chris, okay, good, great. All right, so let's carry on. So the last race we did was, okay, he's all over it.
All right. Okay, now here's a here's a possible mega factor. So we've got a $1.80 favourite. We've got a pretty big associated money gap. I think we can see quite clearly the consistent strength of money for our favourite leading up to the 1 minute mark. Let's go to percentage return quickly. Large separator, not quite as big as as the corresponding money gap in trifecta, but still quite large nonetheless. I suppose mainly it's slightly reduced because I suppose the money support for the favourite has eased off a little bit at the 1 minute mark. But it's, I think that it's quite clear to see that there is consistent strength of money for that favourite over several intervals. And if we work back here, you can see all the way along the win dividend has stayed at the lower end of the range, $1.80. So quite reasonable to consider mega factor as the selection option. We're going to cover down to runner 3 for second place, and I think, and down to runner 9 for third place, and that coverage very much accommodates the prevailing money profile because there's quite a differential or a reduction going from runner 3 to runner 1. So there would be no need, be superfluous to cover the extra runners for second. If we had a situation where the money was pretty well similar and it gradually tapered off from here down to here with no quite significant differential at any point, then maybe you would consider optimising by covering extra runners. But here we're going to cover down to the 80% level for second, down to here for third. I mean, we've got plenty of money in our prize pool and 15 combinations. So, the key to mega factor, as I said to somebody the other day, the idea is to be selective. You've got to tick all the boxes. And so it's not just satisfactory to look at the win dividend and the money gap and say, oh yeah, win dividend's okay, money gap's okay, I'll go mega factor. You want to be satisfied that that the favourite is enjoying enough money support to justify it standing alone as the first place pick. And so it's important to look at the money flow. And a good assistance can be going into percentage return, because if you go to percentage return and you've got a separator associated with the favourite that's quite a bit bigger than the money gap associated with the favourite in trifecta, then that's telling you that there's pretty solid money support for the favourite over the last 5 intervals. So all these indicators have to be taken into account, and if you're satisfied that that the indicators stack up, by all means trade mega factor, because as you can see, you can get quite healthy returns with a good outcome.
Yeah. What's the minimum percentage of the prize pool the favourite needs to hold to call this a mega?
Well, normally with a $1.80 favourite, you can be assured that the percentage would be somewhere between 40 and 50.
Okay.
If it's around about...
So that's not a determining factor?
No. It's the win dividend values that are the priority.
Okay.
Because by association we know, like in banker trifecta, if we have a favourite that falls to $1.70 in value, we know that it's got to be holding pretty close to or more than 50% of the money.
Got it.
If a win dividend is around $2, which is the upper end of the range in mega factor, the percentage would be closer to 40 than 50. When it falls to $1.80, it's closer to 50 than 40.
Got it.
Right. So I guess it's just a difference by degree. Megafector presents strong favourites, but not quite as definitively strong as in banker trifecta.
Right.
All right. Moving on to the next one. Now here, as you can see, there is a potential megafector on offer. $1.90 favourite, money gap 2.47. But if we look at the money support over the lead up to the race, and particularly at the 1 minute mark, you know, there is that weakening aspect to the money support for runner one. It's sort of come back to the field a bit here. Let's go to percentage return, and you'll notice runner one has no separator associated with it in percentage return that corresponds with the 2.47 money gap in trifecta. So that's a warning sign in itself. And quite clearly, I mean, looking at what's happening at the 1 minute mark here, I think it'd be a brave person to consider megafector, given that there is competitive money for runner three at 1 minute with the favourite. And what we're looking for, if we're going to trade megafector to stand the favourite out on its own for first, is consistent dominance in money support, not money support that's sort of tending to waver towards the end. And I think if we just take this back, now look at this. We had a $1.80 favourite at 3 minutes. We had a $1.80 favourite at 2 minutes, but at 1 minute it's $1.90. So the win dividend for the favourite is tracking in the wrong direction. What we're looking for is for the win dividend for the favourite to reduce progressively, which is an indication that the money support for the favourite is building progressively.
So this reinforces once again your position is to start looking at the races at 5 minutes before the race jumps.
Oh, absolutely.
And you can never just make the decision on, even if you're collecting the data like we recommend and then reviewing it in the evening or reviewing it at a time when you've got the time, it pays dividends, figuratively and literally, to actually look at the races from the 5 minute and shift the data down and see what's going on. Take your eyes to the favourite, take your eyes to money, take your eyes to the UDIF and WDIF and WP columns.
Quite so. Quite so.
And of course the MG, and what's happening there? Is it moving up and down? So that's why we're not standing this number one out as a standalone.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got a runner right at the moment of decision that's attracting slightly more money than the favourite. That's exactly what we don't want. So, you know, just basic group selections have been made with an allowance for third, because you can see the big reduction in money support for these runners from 5 down. So, you know, we're prepared to make the percentage allowance, and that optimises our selections at 24 combinations.
Fantastic. Hey, Kylie just asked a question about data discrepancies. Kylie, if you do need to, we've done quite a bit of work over the last couple of months, actually a vast amount of work over the last couple of months, and we have released another update to the software in the last about a week and a half, Pete.
Yeah, I believe so.
So if you're and so that deals with 90% of or 99% of people's data issues. We're trying to just get we've written more lines of code to deal with the data and making sure the data is displaying smoothly than actual code that does all the calculations embedding inside the software. So the TAB have provided us with a data feed. That's nice of them. And then we've had to write, the programmers have had to write more code to deal with that data feed than anything else inside the software. So do make sure you're keeping up to date with the latest version. We've dealt with most of those things. So Kylie, do check that. Check what version you're on. Pete, what version are we on? Is this program? We just minimise this. It'll tell us. So you should be on 11212. 11212 should be the version of the software you should be running. If not, do go ahead and grab that, please. All right, so welcome, Brian. I am recording the sessions, and that'll be going up this afternoon in between the session ending and our new one beginning. That'll be going up on the Facebook group. So, okay, great. So Kylie's got an older version. Kylie, do update that, please, and that should deal with most of it. We're trying to get it to a point where the only issue could possibly be your internet connection, and then we can't control that. Everything we can do to smooth out and make sure the data feed works for everybody is being done and constantly being done. Pete, back to you.
On we go. All right, we move on to the next selection race, and this is just once again 50, 70, 90 to red money gaps. It's pretty straight up and down. I mean, top three runners first, down to runner 1 for second, down to runner, what was it, 4 for third. We go to percentage return. Separator, we don't have a separator in the same location as the money gap we're working to for second, but you can see that the we have like a multiple of 1.45, which is pretty close to 1.5 anyway. I think based on the money support here at the 1 minute mark, quite reasonable to just make the basic selections for for money gap selections for first, second and third, giving us 54 combinations. We certainly can't make a percentage allowance for second place because we're not holding enough. Remember, it's got to be 67.5% or more to a money gap of 1.7 or bigger. And of course the money support has got to justify any percentage allowances that we make. All right, moving on now to next race.
By the way, Rod is just saying data is coming through faster and better on the new update. So that's our goal, Rod. And Rod's up in North Queensland. It's not necessarily on the greatest cable internet that your money can buy. He's on a regular home internet connection and getting good data. So carry on, Pete.
All right. Okay, we got another basic selection outcome here. It's pretty clear cut. Top three runners first and second, down to runner 8 for third. That's 50, 70, 90. And if we go to percentage return, we've got to work into a 1.67 money gap in trifecta. Notice that the accompanying or corresponding separator and percentage return is 1.8. So it's a strong endorsement, and you can see the separator that we're using as our defining separator for third place is considerably bigger than the money gap in trifecta. So I think it's all it all indicates that the selections there as they are best accommodate the money profile prevailing.
Very good.
All right.
And we do email out every update that we send out, so just search through your emails there, and if it's not, you can't find it, let Chris know or Linda know, and we'll email you the link to download the latest version.
Okay, now next selection. Now this involves a percentage allowance for second place. You can see the top three runners are holding 69.69%, which is not quite 70, but it's within that 67.5 to 70% range. We have a money gap of 1.7 or bigger defining our group. You can see that there is money dominance for this group of three runners at the top, consistent money dominance at 3 minutes particularly, 2 minutes and 1 minute, so more than acceptable to make the percentage allowance for second place, which gives us optimal coverage of 30 combinations. If we go to percentage return, notice that the separator at the third runner in percentage return is considerably bigger than the defining money gap in trifecta. So there's another endorsing factor.
Very good.
Okay.
Are there any questions about this? I mean, I know sort of Pete's going through this as a bit like it sort of feels like, no, yeah, well, there's another one without a lot of pomp and ceremony. But, you know, please do ask questions or dive in, or is everybody just like, yep, see it, get it? You know, I'm glad I was trading, or I wish I was trading.
well, basically what we're doing is we're using the program correctly in its cause and effect role. We're looking at money support, we're looking at money gap locations, and we're looking at percentage levels, and we're sort of marrying all those things up. So we're saying, right, percentage is okay, money gap's okay, strength of money is obviously there, quite justifiable to make the allowance. Okay.
So I'm just messaging Chris, Leslie, and so we haven't both decided to go for a coffee. Just wondering why there's silence. I'm just reading through comments here. Yep, get it. Great. Excellent. Okay, well, everybody seems on board.
Okay, yeah, very good. All right. Now, yet again, here's another just basic selection race. You know, 50, 70, 90%, as you can see. And once again, you know, the selections best accommodate the prevailing money profile. I mean, and if we go to percentage return, yet again, we have a separator at the third runner that's slightly bigger than our money gap, defining money gap in trifecta. So all of the indicators stack up, and so the selections would be quite reasonable. The selections sort of really pick themselves, I guess. Notice that we have a 1.41 multiple here, but we can't make a money gap allowance for third like that because we're not holding the full 90% of the money to number 7.
Yeah, good
distinction. If you're going to make a money gap allowance for third, a money gap allowance for third makes a concession on the money gap size. A percentage allowance for third makes a concession on the percentage. So when you're making a concession on the percentage, you work to a bona fide red money gap. When you're making a money gap allowance, you're working to the full 90% coverage to a 1.3 or bigger multiple. Now, as you can see today, we're, you know, the races have come through thick and fast, and so moving on to the next one, here's our old favourite, strong favourite at the top of the field, group of 2 runners holding more than 47.5% of the money, quite a large separator defining the group, bigger than 1.7, strong cumulative money. I mean, look at how strong it is. Strong money there, 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 pretty much all the way back to where we pick up at the 5-minute mark. So very clear, a justifiable trading race in percentage return. Another one, pretty much a facsimile of the last one. I won't go through all the indicators, but I mean you can see quite clearly that as you look at all the relevant indicators in turn, percentage, money gap size, separator size, cumulative money support at the 1-minute mark, back at the 2-minute mark, back at the 3-minute mark, no doubt about the fact that we're going to trade with the strong favourite and runner 6 as our group. And as I've said to many people and I've said it on these webinars, when you're starting out, getting accustomed to the trading experience, these are the sorts of trading opportunities you want to stick to. Just trade what the percentage return featuring like these, and they've got a solid strike rate, not surprisingly, and it's a good way to cut your teeth.
Okay, so I was just messaging with Chris, and the version that we've got here is the next release after the one that's currently released. So what Chris is going to do is I've just asked him to put this version, which is 1.212, into the Facebook group, or with a link to the support portal. You can go ahead and download that. We've been testing that for about a week and a half now. We'd like to do a couple of weeks of testing minimum, but it's actually pretty strong, and there's no major issues with that. So if you are, like Kylie, having some differences between what you're seeing here and it's affecting your trading, do go ahead. Chris is going to put that up in the Facebook group in the next little while. So that answers that.
All right. Another percentage return, trading against the weak favourite, a very weak favourite, holding only 16.96% of the money. At the top, this time our favourite's at the top of the field, but you could see how money competitive the group is, and particularly at the 1 minute mark. I mean, the money just dies for the favourite here. It's almost a surprise that the favourite hasn't moved further down the field order as a result of that big reduction in money support. But there's a competitive group of 4 runners holding more than 47.5% of the money. The favourite has a positive value in the UDIF column, no numbers in the WUP column, quite at liberty to trade with the 4 runners against that very weak favourite.
Hey Pete, just got a question here from Malcolm. Back at BR, was it BR4 or BR5? Anyway, so back at BR, his question is, back at BR4, money support for runner 5 was greater than runner 2. Above, should we cover to the next money gap? So
BR05, was it?
No, I think it was BR4. I think he's asking about. There it is.
Where is it? There.
So the question is, money support for runner 5. I see. Okay, so this $966 there.
Oh, I see. Yeah. All right. This could be taken into account. I mean, I guess at the 1 minute mark, it's quite a large injection of money. But remember, when we're trying to optimise our selections, we're always prioritising from the top down. It's not a good idea to give undue consideration to what's happening at the bottom of the field at the expense of what's happening at the top of the field, because most success in races, the odd occasion notwithstanding where outsiders are successful, most success comes from where the money's going, and that's racing stats. That's not IQ Pro stats. That's genuine race stats will indicate that. So it is important when you're trying to optimise your selections to and introduce relativity into it and say, well, okay, quite a large injection of money for this runner. I mean, I've got no issue with somebody covering the extra couple of runners. I mean, that's if that's the response to your awareness of that injection of money at the 1 minute mark, that's fine. But I guess wherever possible, let me just answer it by saying we're trying to maximise our coverage in the upper field and sacrifice wherever possible runners in the lower field simply because they're not attracting very much money support at all. I guess when all said and done, you know, we've got 3 runners here paying $3, $3.60 and $4 stacked up against a runner paying 22.1%. Now, notwithstanding the big injection of money at the 1 minute mark, really it hasn't attracted much money at all. If it had attracted quite solid, consistent money leading up to the 1 minute mark, it would be higher in the field because its win dividend value would reduce.
Yep.
So, yeah, so whatever you choose to do, make sure when you're trying to prioritise or trying to optimise your selections, look from the top down rather than the bottom up. Okay, where am I now? Okay, here's another. Now here's another possible mega factor, as we can see. $1.90 favourite, required size, money gap associated with it. Remember, if we're going to go mega factor, as I've said, be selective. You know, make sure that you're satisfied that the money support for the favourite justifies standing the favourite out on its own and employing the mega factor strategy. If for any reason you have doubts about that, then the best idea is to opt for group selections, which has been done here simply because the money support is quite strong here, but it just doesn't sort of seem to have the strength, the consistent strength relative to the rest of the field to justify standing it out as the standalone favourite. I mean, the separator associated with it in percentage return is slightly bigger, but I think looking at the real money support is important as well, and it just looks to me like it's starting to weaken a little bit. So, I mean, sure, mega factor is a choice that you could make, but in this instance we've chosen to be conservative and stick with the basic group selections.
Yeah, very good.
So, you know, it's just important to make sure all the priorities are satisfied, and if you do that and you're happy, then by all means trade mega factor. But if there's even a skerrick of doubt, then the path is clear. You just go, you know, take the conservative line and go group selections.
Very good.
Because you can do that with mega factor. You can't do it with banker trifecta. It's either banker or nothing. If you're not happy to trade banker, then don't do anything, because you're dealing with a win dividend range that's not legitimate, applying group selections. But with mega, you are dealing with legitimate win dividend values of $1.80 or more. So you've got, you know, the two options.
Yeah.
Okay, getting towards the end now, and what has been a very busy day.
So Pete, just to confirm, our session is when we finish this, it'll be about 11 o'clock Queensland time. The session for the online workshops is at 1, so that's in 2 hours' time.
Yeah.
So Ivan just said I'm signing off now to go down to Hamilton because it's an hour away. So that means we're actually 2 hours away from going live there, Ivan. Hope you haven't already buggered off. Yeah, unless of course you need to, you know, wash your hair and pretty yourself up. That's entirely up to you how you want to do that. But yeah, so we're 2 hours away from going live for Hamilton and Sydney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now here we have chosen to go mega factor simply because, apart from the obvious indicators, you can see the consistent strength of money for the favourite right down to the 1 minute mark. If we go to percentage return, let's have a look. Yeah, percentage return, the separator is slightly bigger associated with the favourite than the money gap in trifecta, and the money support is very, very solid indeed, and the win dividend does reduce down to the upper end of the range to $2 as we get to the 1 minute mark. So here, mega factor is the chosen strategy to employ. And you can see we're covering the 80% of the money down to runner 10, and that's where we're going to leave the coverage for second place, given that we've got this these obvious tiers of money or layers of money. Predominant money for the favourite, secondary money down to runner 10, and then a reduction in money support down to runner 3.
And there's extra points here for the Kiwis that can pronounce this a place name.
Exactly.
Carry on, Pete, sorry.
Try and say it after a few drinks.
Yeah, I think that's actually the only way you can say it, isn't
it? Probably. Yeah, all right. Here's another of our favourites, strong favourite, runner 7. That's our group. 50% of the money, just a little bit more than 50% of the money held, 1.71 separator, clear-cut dominant money here, clear-cut dominant money here, relatively dominant money here, definite strength of money here. So there's yet another trading opportunity and percentage return with 2 selections. Now here's a really compact little group, but it's the selections that have been made best to accommodate the prevailing money profile, as you can see. In fact, you'll notice that these top 2 runners are holding 72% of the money. Now, that could prompt the question to be asked, why don't you do that? Well, that's probably pushing it just a little bit too hard, I think. You could do that if you wanted to, because I mean, legitimately, those top 2 runners are holding, 70% of the money. So that could be a defining point for first and second. But that's really, that's really creating a group, a combination count that's perhaps a little bit.
You're putting a lot of eggs in the 4 baskets.
I think so. Yeah, exactly right. I mean, the strength of money is there, but remember, favourites win only 28% of the time, as stats tell us. So I think we've erred on the conservative side and brought the selections for second down to number 4. We're holding the full 90% component down to that level because of the obvious strength of money, particularly 1 minute for those 4 runners compared to the rest of the field, and yet look at the where is it, number 5? Number 5 was the winner, so you can see number 5. So even though the market support was there for these top 2 runners, in this instance it didn't bode well, but nonetheless a justifiable trading opportunity. And lucky last.
It's a monster day. 7 in the
Lucky
evening.
last, and it's another trading race with 2 selections. For all the right reasons, as we've sort of indicated earlier on today.
Strong favourite, more than 50% return, more than 50% coverage.
Yeah, big money, big separator, very strong favourite, 35% of the money, solid, cumulative money support here. I mean, relatively speaking, the dominant money is for these runners here, the top 2 runners, pretty much all the way along for several intervals, so quite justifiable. And now we go to the grand finale, which is the data sheet, and this is the kind of day that you just dream about, because the profit, I mean, okay, we had an early failure here in percentage return, but then the profit just started to build and continued to build and continued and continued. So I would suggest anybody that got to this point here and didn't consider taking the money and exiting the stage, as it were, would perhaps be doing themselves an injustice.
Indeed.
But if you did continue on, the profit just kept building and building, and it was pretty well solid right the way through the day. In fact, the vast bulk of those trading opportunities were successful, with just a couple of failures. There was one at the end that last opportunity in trifecta we looked at was unsuccessful, and we had one prior to that, SRO3, that was 8 that was unsuccessful. But, you know, by that stage, I would think that any responsible trader would have
pegged out.
Would have, yeah,
or tapped out, as they say.
Tapped out. Yeah.
So a lot of people will
doing a beeline down for the TAB to collect their money,
collect their cash. That's right. Not to have a few scotches and a bit of a gamble.
Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of day you dream of. So that's the exact antithesis to the day that we looked at the last time.
Exactly. So a lot of people, we talk about financial strategy when it comes to the software, and it's okay to ride the profits, but of course you manage the losses. So if you can ride the wave all the way into shore, as they say, but then if you do have a loss, then know that you're risking a level of cash and capital that is over and above your $500 a day or $80 a day or $1,000 a day, whatever number that you've set as your daily target. You're risking that amount of money. Remember, every race is of itself an opportunity to make profit and or loss. So when you are presented with things like this, do take the opportunity to ride the wave. Where are we here? So we've ridden the wave. We've gone up. We're happy to go. You know what? We're $900 up. Yes, I'm happy to have another trade. 1,700 up. Yes, I'm happy to have another trade. And then if you have this loss, maybe that's when you say I'm done.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's at that time PR3. You say, you know what? I'm done at this point. I'm $1,800 up. I'm good.
Oh,
I think it would. Well, very good. I think it would not be advisable to have another trade.
No, I think on good days where you're on a roll, keep going until you have a loss.
Yeah, until you go, you know what, I've had my little $200 lesson there. I'm still $1,850 up. That's a good day by anybody's reasoning.
And now, the day, I think the day, what did it end up as? I don't think it ended up much more than that, really.
No, we went up and down like a bride's 19 and 1875.
So it ended up being 18. So anybody that walked away a third into the day was laughing.
Exactly. Now, one other thing is that whilst we've been talking, I've communicated with Chris, and he's gone ahead and put up the new version of the software with a link to the members section, or the support portal in the IQ Pro members group on Facebook. So if you do want to go ahead and grab that, do so, and that will deal with any data issues you seem to be having at the moment. So Chris has written a reasonably good explanation there. I said, Chris, just stick the link up. Of course, Chris doesn't just do anything, so he's put up a reasonably strong explanation and the link and things like that. So I can always rely on Chris to offer more than I ask for.
Absolutely.
Which is excellent. Well, look, ladies and gentlemen, we are bang on 11 o'clock. We've gone over because I just can't help myself and yakking away to Pete. Shown a pretty good day, and I'm looking forward to seeing the Hamiltonians.
Yes.
Or was it Canterburyans? No, that's down in the south. What do the people from Hamilton call themselves? New Zealanders. Looking forward to seeing the people from Sydney, people from Hamilton in their support groups in about 2 hours.
Yes, we'll rejoin you then, folks. Meanwhile, thanks very much for your attendance today to everybody, and as usual, I always hope that what we've discussed today has been helpful, and we'll certainly reconvene in a couple of weeks' time. So everybody have a great weekend, and we'll talk very soon.
Very good. See you soon. Bye.
Bye now.
Thanks. Bye-bye.